Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is the 20th of May. The 20th of May, weather's crap in that way. It's interesting, the last couple years, April in this Moscow, northwestern Russia, I won't say Moscow region, just northwestern Russia. April is summertime temperatures, up to 25, 26 degrees Celsius, and then May comes, and we get freezes. Last year we had snow and -8, killed off all my peach, well, not peaches, but all my pears and apples. Well, they were just starting. The flowers just came up and they're all gone. Yet to see flowers this year. I mean, it hasn't flowered yet because it's on and off. Cold, warm, cold, warm. It's about 15 degrees. It's only supposed to start warming up toward the end of the week, back to kind of where it should be. So much for that global warming. Yeah. We've had freezing weather here in May. So there's that global warming. That's another thing about that global warming. For those of you who are old enough, you're going to remember global freezing. That was the big fear factor. The problem with global freezing back in the 60s and 70s was it didn't get any money. That's right. Shocking, I know. I mean, for most people, this is going to be shocking. But research has been shown to get the results that the money pays for. And they want money, first and foremost. You know, I would go as far as to say that science in general has suffered massively. I mean, really, we haven't had any major breakthroughs. This is the main theme of the talk, but this is just a little side issue. We haven't really had any major breakthroughs in decades in science. Technology, yes, but not really in science. I'll tell you why. Major breakthroughs in science happened earlier on because the scientists were rich men. Oh, what? No, oh, you're being elitist. No, seriously, they're rich men. They didn't give a damn what anybody thought of their research. They just went and did research because they enjoyed it. They didn't need to feed their families off of it. They didn't go after grants. Most of them were in those days, scientists were called naturalists. This is up to the last century. They're called naturalists. They're mostly from the upper class, well educated. Some of them did, of course, come from the middle class and find private backers who, again, while not scientists, were enthralled with the concept of it and were willing to spend their personal money to see what comes out. And then that changed and it went more into government big business. But the governments in the big business had what was in Americans coined as skunks works. Why skunk works? Because they stink. Because the vast majority of what people try fails. But occasionally you get genius things, even if they're by accident. Say sticky notes. This sticky notes is a prime example. There's a guy that made sticky notes just because there were notes all over the place, and he decided to take some tape and he just stuck little pieces of paper, and then one day he just looked at it and said, hey, we can just make a block of these. Oh, wow. And there you go, a new product that earned his backers in that skunkworks millions of dollars. That had nothing to do with his research. But skunkworks produced quite a bit of stuff. But then you had the modern corporations take over, and they're not really interested in science. Because they're interested in technology. So they don't want experimental science. They want money, right? They're not going in for this for the thrill of the discovery. They're going in for this for cash. And if you look at the big pharma industries, for example, they spend the vast majority of their spend on marketing, not on research. Research gets a very miserable amount from big pharma. And they really, what they tend to do is they buy up small pharma, which may be somebody's little project. They don't really develop much. Most Western corporations, they don't develop shit anymore. I mean, let's be honest about it. They buy up smaller companies or inventions from all companies, and I took part in this in Halliburton as director of supply chain for Eurasia. We were buying stuff from Russian small companies. They're usually attached to some university. And that's another thing. The universities took over scientific development. And this is the same problem in Russia to a degree. Not as bad as the West, not as bad as the US. But why do people leave science? I'll tell you why people leave science. Because it's not science. It's begging. That's all it friggin' is. The big names on any team, they don't do any work. I mean, scientific work. They may lead the team somewhat, but they don't do anything except write grants and reports. That's all it is. Science in the West, and to a larger degree, to a smaller degree in other areas, has become nothing but a money-grubbing, bureaucratic shithole. That's why we're not going anywhere. We're developing technology, or we're improving technology that's already been developed. Look, I wrote a series of articles for ESW. I wrote 2, and I got 2 more to go. The Power of Russian Science. First one was the 1700s. The second was the 1800s. And by the way, a very large chunk of modern electronics is based off of Russian discoveries in the 1800s, including the electric car. The first electric car was built by Russians, and it was built over 150 years ago. And no, things have not gotten better. That's the point. We lack huge breakthroughs because we have a system built on getting cash, not on making changes. It's all about the Benjamins and screw everything else, which of course has a finite limit. There's only so much improvement you can do to some technology before it gets any incremental improvement after that just gets too costly. I mean, okay, so you can throw in a chip into every damn thing you can think of. And does it make your coffee maker make your coffee better because it's chipped? Is your washing machine better because it has 15 cycles? By the way, and it burns out a lot faster. No. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of people are looking over going, God, I wish I just had manual controls. Those things lasted forever, and they were easy to operate. I didn't have to friggin' study a manual this thick just to figure out how to wash my clothes in a newfangled, super expensive washing machine that can tell me my heartbeat, tell me the weather and everything else that I don't need. And the Internet of Things that connects all of this. Never mind, it's a huge security leak, gigantic security leak. I mean, you hack the Internet of Things for a house, and you can switch, for example, you hack a programmable coffee maker, and you switch it on. There's nothing there, right? So it just goes till it burns, and you set a fire in a house. It's all possible. It's all can be done. When nobody's home, you can switch somebody's refrigerator temperature up so the food spoils, and then switch it back down so they don't know about it, unless they're being careful, and then you cause food poisoning to people. There's lots of possibilities. You know, it used to be old days when you had the tubes in your monitor screens. If hackers could hack your computer, they could set your house on fire. Because depending on the monitor that you had, with the electron cannon sitting there shooting electrons at your screen, which, by the way, is all those old televisions. They're literally electron cannon, electron accelerator. What you could do is you could set the refresh rate on some of these monitors to ridiculously high levels, so they overheated, and yeah, they caused fires. So there's that little problem with that. And they take jobs. They do take jobs. They take a lot of jobs. And the robot wave that's coming in this year, as a matter of fact, is taking jobs. And that's something every single society is going to have to face with. You know, in my personal opinion, no manufacturing plant should be allowed to be more than 50% robotized. No matter what kind of robots you're using. And I'll tell you why. Because humans need work, first of all. Let's begin with that. Human beings, even if you put them on basic income, if you don't have something to do, I love these guys, these liberals. Oh, they can all paint portraits and write poetry. Well, 50% of humanity has a below, at average or below average, which is average, the concept of average IQ. They're not going to be writing poetry. They're not going to be painting portraits. They don't have the mental capability for it. Does that mean they shouldn't be able to earn food, earn money for food and live a normal life? Of course not. But let's be realistic about it. They're not going to write the next romance. Additionally, you know, just So what's going to happen? If you put people on basic income, they get bored. You're going to burn your society down because they get bored. They got nothing to do except drink themselves into a hole. You can't play video games. Well, I guess you could play video games all day. But, medicate themselves out. But they get bored, especially the young. Life's not short. What do you do with it? You got nothing to get up in the morning for. Let's go burn the town down. It might get killed, but hell, at least it'll be interesting. Better than sitting here on the couch all day watching everyone get fat. So that's a reality. Human beings have to be employed. Additionally, all these corporations are butt-ass stupid. Well, they're not. Actually, the CEOs aren't, because the CEOs are mercenaries. In most of these corporations, CEOs are mercenaries. They didn't even grow up in those corporations. They get hired by their buddies who are on the board of directors. And then when they're on the board of directors, they'll hire those buddies to be CEOs. They get their little golden parachute, even if they screw the whole company up in 2 or 3 years, and they're out. And the next guy gets in. And they just rape the company until it collapses. Or they're bankers, big finance, which their job is just to destroy everything to get the money ASAP. They don't look at long-term investments. Don't kid yourself. Big finance does not look at long-term investment. Big finance looks at the next quarter and the next bonus. The KPIs that you set up are what's going to guide people over and over and over again. So when you get shit managers that don't understand KPIs, the long-term effect of their KPIs. I'll give you a quick example. The Singapore plant was constantly ordering forgings from Russia. I was looking over all of this, and they're all constantly ordering, which I told them, the Russian forgings are great quality, great savings, but considering the logistics cost, you probably should look at China. Just, you need to check everything in China. That's just the concept of it. But they were ordering from Russia, and they were ordering not 2 or 3 months worth. Remember, this is about a month. It takes a month to get to Singapore. They were ordering a week's worth or 2 weeks worth. So they're shipping basically a half empty or empty container. Part of this problem was that logistics in Cameron was a separate column. It didn't have anything to do with per unit cost. They didn't see it. Logistics was a separate entity and covered it separately. So the managers of the plants, they just got a monthly logistics bill, and that's it. So on what exactly it went to, nobody knew. Big mistake. That's a huge mistake. So they didn't really see the full load of cost. But when it came out, because I started digging, I'm like, why the hell are you doing this? Why the hell are you ordering 2 weeks worth instead of 2 months worth? And then it came out, one of the Chinese working there, he mentioned, not because he's Chinese, but he just mentioned, it was about the KPIs of the plant manager. Inventory turns. That's right, inventory turns. How fast you could get inventory out the door and get inventory subparts in and subparts out. So if they were producing inventory turns every 2 weeks, he gets a bigger bonus. But that's a stupid KPI because they're spending God knows how much more money. They're losing money because they're spending on logistics and constantly ordering instead of ordering a large batch. And the parts come out more expensive because they're in small batch production instead of large batch production. So anyways, that's just a little thing. It's whatever incentive you set up for human beings. And again, incentives all over the place, especially big finance, is quick bonuses. So you need to show cash flow. It's finance after all. So, and then there's that question of, okay, so everybody is on basic income. You fired 60% of humanity. Who's buying your crap? Oh, the government needs to print money to give basic income to people to buy the crap that they are no longer producing, but the robots are producing. And we understand where this goes. It goes into economic default. Yeah, it's great for the elites. They don't have to look at the dirty little people walking around the world because they're a separate form of humanity, which never ends well for them, by the way. No, they fail to study history. And it never ends well for society. So every society is going to have to make that choice. Do we go full on automation? Then I don't know what, exterminate humanity, and that gets into that whole jab thing and other theories, and why they're pushed for big war. Get rid of humanity. Get rid of the extra labor force. that we don't need anymore because we got robots. The dirty little people can go die off. I just want pretty people to serve me. And then some peasants out on the farm in the neo-feudal Western model. I mean, this is insanity what the Western elites are pushing. It's just absolute insanity. Return humanity in a technocratic frame, return humanity to where it was, 400 years ago? I mean, people wrote books about this. They were called fantasy, right? Dystopic future reality fantasy books back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And now we're on the cusp of all of that. Congratulations to the West. Bring humanity forward into serfdom again. New feudalism. Oh, Lord have mercy. So we got the talks on the phone between Putin and Trump. I'll tell you this. The vast majority of people I know, of course, everyone wants peace. They want the just peace. And just peace in this case is the Russians aren't being murdered by Nazi scum backed by America. And no matter what you say, I know Trump, Trump wants Putin to talk to Zelensky. I'll tell you why he wants that. Because he's still trying to wash the stain off of his hands that he's the one who made this war possible. He did everything he could but pull the trigger because he didn't get a chance to pull the trigger. He was out. Biden got the chance to pull the trigger. The glory of taking Russia down. Well, now Trump's got to fix what he set up in motion and going. Or at least not fix. At least buy time. And as long as if it's Putin talking to that shrunken transvestite clown and his idiot posse that came in with in camouflage because we're big mean soldier people that never held a rifle in our hands, sit around and eat and drink and screw while half the country's getting whacked for their thieving bonuses, their KPIs. And the KPIs of their American masters in Congress and the administration, so on. Then he can have plausible deniability because, Zelensky's independent. Yeah, Zelensky's your puppet. I don't for a second believe the Trump administration or any American administration cannot control Zelensky. Sorry, I don't. They created him. His money is in American and English banks. His property's in the U.S., and they've got enough things to hang him by the hairs of his balls and beat him like a friggin' piñata. As much money he stole from the U.S., as much corruption, as much kickback to people like the war criminal Graham, the terrorist enabler. I mean, seriously, and you can't control Zelensky. Right. Don't believe that for a second. Good cop, bad cop doesn't work because nobody believes the good cop anymore. They're just expecting a corrupt bad cop with a smile and a cup of coffee. That's the reality of it. Why is the Euro scum there pushing for a ceasefire? Once a ceasefire kicks in, there's going to be no peace negotiations. We know that. Why are they pushing for a ceasefire or any kind of this type of peace, temporary peace? Because they want a revolution in Russia. What they understand is 1.5 million, 2 million people serving in the military at this moment or have come out in the last 3 years, whether injured or with their contract finished. If this is a crap peace, they're going to be very, very angry, and there's going to be a revolutionary energy there. And then what they want is collapse of Russia. Unfortunately for them, unfortunately for us and much of the world, the Russian government well understands that. These people don't want peace, they want our death. They want as much war as possible to the east of them for as long as possible. And if that means they don't have to get their hands dirty, all the better. They've got all the cunning of a fifth grader. But the problem is they think everyone else is an idiot. And they're the most cunning beast running around. This clown posse. So, on we go. And on we go. Romania's been locked in. So, the next people to get to die are going to be Romanians and Poland. Poland's also been locked in. Or about to be locked in. So, the globalists are well in charge. Romania, the poster child of Western democracy. We cancel the first election round of elections. When we figure out that the guy we don't want, Georgescu, is going to win no matter what, we just cancel him, period, as a candidate. Come in the second round, we put up a pseudo-conservative, actually, ultra-nationalist candidate in the form of Simeon, who's dreaming about the Romanian Empire. We set him up, and then we make sure he loses. He agreed very quickly that he lost. Very quickly. He went from 42% to 46%, and a guy that barely made it through the first round at 20% makes it over 50. Creative counting, something like in the Moldova elections. Did they find, an extra million voters, Romanian voters somewhere all over the EU? Oh, I'm sure they possibly did. But the fact that he conceded so fast, maybe he was in on it. Maybe it was a setup. He had to do something to save face after blatantly stealing the elections in Romania. But that is Western democracy, if you can call it that. They're defending their democracy, not yours. You get servitude and extermination. If you're lucky, it'll be just some turbo cancer or something taking you out fast, and well, maybe that's not lucky. I don't know what's lucky. Bullet in the head, a good war to depopulate Romania, and Poland's next for depopulation. And then population replacement. The theory. The theory. Where Belgium is 50% under 21, or was it 22? It's 50% foreign-born. So replacement is still a theory? Seriously? When does it become fact? When it's 95? 99? Yeah, okay. Theory. So that's what they want. They want this war to roll on. And honestly, I very much so hope that the combat lawyer and his bunch of morons get what they want. I hope they do the super sanctions. I'll tell you why. Get Russian oil off the market. Absolutely. And Iranian oil off the market. Absolutely. Because at that point, the Russian economy, the Russian economy is self-sufficient. The American economy bends itself at the waist and runs full speed into a wall and crushes its skull and its spine and shits itself out the other end. Sorry for the wording. Because here's the reality, boys and girls, looking at $10, $12, $15 a gallon gasoline, petro for the rest of the world, petroleum. The U.S. is one of the biggest importers of oil in the world, and diesel, and gasoline. The U.S. imports for at Belmont, for the Belmont, Texas, Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Lafayette, Louisiana refineries. They import heavy sour crude. Only 3 places in the world produce it: Iran, Venezuela, and the Ural Mountains of Russia. So that's about 3 or 4% of U.S. oil. Try retooling those refineries. It's a lot of money, a lot of downtime in the big driving season. But that's not that much. I mean, that's a good hit on the gasoline production. I'll tell you that much. But that's not even that much. Have you ever looked at how much oil the world uses? It uses about 47 million barrels a day. Guess who produces over 20% of that? Russia and Iran combined is over 20% of that. By all means, take it off the market. U.S. is one of the biggest importers. What do you think is going to happen to a barrel of oil the next day? Honestly, if I was Russia, I'd do it myself. I go 3 months, it's off the market, and after 3 months, we're doing our own market, our own electronic market, and you can order from us. We'll give you a discount off of what the going rate is, and then we'll see. You can get it cheaper, but it's going to be in rubles, gold, or silver. A combined Russian-Iranian market. Birja. That's the way you do it. And you watch them squirm. because you got 20% of the world's production off the market. You feed China what it needs. Keep China in the good graces and fighting the economic war. You don't sabotage close allies. But everybody else, oh, your economies are collapsing. You're having revolutions. Your people are starving the streets. It's all the Americans' fault. They did it. That is Americans. Oh, and they're little whores in Europe. That's right. Right. Look over there. You want to hate someone? Hate those idiots. The same idiots that are starving themselves. What do you think is going to happen to Donald Trump's ratings when gasoline hits $7, $8, $9? By the way, Russia produced like 60% of the world's export diesel. That is, the diesel that's sold on the market. The export market diesel, over 60% is produced by Russia. That's right. So all those big trucks in America, because America imports diesel, even if it doesn't import diesel from Russia, it's able to import diesel because it's a fungible good. So you sell my diesel, your diesel, whose ever diesel, all goes on the market. And the price of diesel, even if America may be importing from somebody else, is cheap because of Russian diesel being the other 60% of the world's diesel. Let's remove that 60% of the world's diesel. For Americans out there, what do you think is going to happen to all your goods? They're all moved by trucks. You're screwed. You're so screwed. You're going to be picking weeds to feed your family. You think I'm kidding? By the way, that average semi-truck to fill up is like $2,000. Go look it up. Now let's see what happens if diesel triples in cost, quadruples in cost. Every single good he's shipping in that container behind him, in that trailer hitch, all that goes up in price. Everything goes up in price. A lot. So here, welcome to reality. I very much hope the Republicans get and the Democrat whores there, they get what they want. Take the Russian, take it all off. Take the uranium off, so the U.S. can't power, or it has to get in line for the limited production. Russia owns 70% of uranium enrichment globally. Let's see how much electricity goes up. One of those big giga centers, by the way, info centers for Google, 3 Mile Island. It needs uranium. It needs not just uranium, it needs uranium rods, processed uranium, enriched. It all goes off. Yeah, let's see. This is going to get interesting. This is going to get real interesting. Boeing had their main engineering bureau in Moscow. Had over 700 engineers. I don't know where they moved it to. It'll be interesting to find out. But aluminum, titanium parts, aluminum parts, they're still coming from Russia. I don't know why bother feeding these animals that want our destruction. But it's still being fed into these corporations. Let's see what happens to their stock prices. Let's play the game. Let's go all out chicken. Let's go play chicken, baby. It's going to be the American Chevy against the Russian tank. Let's see who turns first. Because these idiots like Graham, none of them understand economics. They don't understand business. They understand corruption. They understand how good their pocketbooks feel after they get their kickbacks for saying whatever stupid crap that they say. But they don't feel any responsibility. And anyways, anything gets screwed up is going to go on Trump. It's not going to go on Graham and the rest of the congressional morons that sit there for 40, 50, 60 years till they just drop dead and go wherever that God sends them. But yeah, let's go. Let's say 20% of the world's oil supply off the market. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. So Russia can survive. We don't need foreign currency. Why do we need foreign currency? Like any sovereign nation, unlike most of Europe, like any sovereign nation, Russia can print as much money as it needs. The problem with money printing, of course, is inflation. You inflate the money supply, and you get more goods, as long as you have the same amount of goods, more or less, not expanding the good productions, you get more money chasing the same amount of goods, prices go up. However, something to consider, if you want your economy to grow, you also have to inflate your money supply. So if you want your economy to grow by 5%, you need to inflate your money supply by 5-6%. You can do it steadily. You can print toward projects to pay for certain projects by printing cash for those projects and things like that. But the problem is if you don't have enough money, you got big problems. That was Russia post-Soviet Union in the 90s. They physically didn't have money. They didn't have money printed. The government wasn't printing money. What do you pay people with when you don't have the paper? Never mind electronics. Well, you pay them in barrels of beer or boxes of potatoes or whatever you're producing, you give to your employees, and it goes into a barter economy. Because there's physically not enough money to control an economy and keep things going. Yeah, that's one of those little realities. That's how it works. Welcome to economics. So what Russia needed euros for, dollars, is to buy things in euros and dollars. Russia takes in euros for selling things in Europe, and then buys other things from Europe or other countries willing to take euros. But it doesn't need them to survive. Russia runs off the ruble. Unlike, say, Argentina that wants to go over the dollar. And then becomes absolutely a non-sovereign entity. Because no longer has a sovereign financial system, no longer has a sovereign and no longer has a sovereign monetary system. So it's no longer sovereign. Just like Europe is no longer sovereign. The moment they went over those countries that went to euro, they lost instant sovereignty. So there you go. So Russia doesn't need euros. We can print what we need. We don't buy anything from the Europeans anymore. We just produce it ourselves or buy it from other countries. Same for the most part for the dollar. We don't buy anything from America. America produces and sells in first place everything that we produce and sell. I mean, look what America sells to China. Go look through the list. And anything that we need medical-wise or anything that we aren't producing yet ourselves, we can buy from India and other countries. In worst case, gold works well. In fact, that's how India has been paying Iran for decades now for oil with gold. Welcome to basic economics, ladies and gentlemen. That's how it works. So let's take 20% of the world's oil off the market and see what happens. See what happens to the U.S. dollar. See what happens to the USA economically. Oh, and by the way, all that fertilizer that's still being bought to the U.S. from Russia, one of the biggest producers of fertilizer in the world, it's going by third paths, back ends, and all that, but it's still going. Let's see what happens to that. It's all going to get interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Buy popcorn. First of all, you may need it because, at least you can feed yourself with popcorn. It's not the most caloric diet, but hey, at least it's better than starving. And besides, it's going to get interesting. Oh, yeah. Because America has been run by morons without any basic concept or understanding of how things work. And sooner or later, it's been run by morons into the ground. And now we get to see the results. All right. Cheers. I'm going to be on Durin, so sometime early next week, the episode will come out, probably around Monday. So see you there. I'll have something come out before that because, the world keeps twitching and twitching ever faster. So it's, I don't do it every day. The schedule doesn't allow. But I try as much as I can. And sometimes you just want to get enough information on something. Now, I don't try to run out ahead of a train. Lose credibility that way. So that's the way I look at it anyways. Everybody does how they want, so it's their choice. Hit like. If you want to support, by all means, I'll put out a crypto wallet number 2. Not this time, next time. I may add it to this one. I got to get it set up. A new one. If you're willing to support my work, by all means, I don't mind. Big thanks. But, if you just share, hit like, that's support too. And a nice word once in a while. Actually, a lot of people leave a nice word, so I can't complain. God bless. Cheers.